Part 5. Since it was on the phone when Sonata returned from the coffee shop, Sonata set the tray of coffee down. The smell of warm pastries filled the room. Sonata bit in a bit of her own much loudly with her legs crossed on the sofa. Sonata set the phone back on the table. Alright, Arya's gonna be transferred tomorrow. Apparently the situation was as bad as it appeared, so they reckon she's gonna be alright. Sonata's muttering slow. Oh! Was all she seemed to be able to muster. Once she finished her pretzels, she grabbed her coffee and stood up. Sunset watched her with an odd feeling in the pit of her stomach. It was sort of like a fear or trepidation. Sonata was naturally oblivious, zipping her art shirt on and tucking her ponytail into the back. Then it came the first curious part of business. She strode over to the pile of canvas with a pair of scissors and a mirror stick. What are you doing? Sunset asked, breaking off a piece of her old pretzel. Working, Sonata said with fake standardness. On what? The advertising, of course. She gave Sunset an amused look. Sunset was suddenly more alert. You don't need all that canvas and make posters, she said quickly. We'll just get printing agency to do it. I'm not making the posters, she laughed. Silly Simmy. I must be getting really silly lately. Sunset gave Sonata a wide look. You've been calling me that a lot lately. I'm making something else. Something I think everyone will like. She paused a second with her pencil halfway to the canvas. Well, I hope they do anyway, because it's going to be hard for them not to see it. Sunset didn't say anything to this. Again, feelings of uncertainty about the whole enterprise bubbled up within her. She watched the Sonata at work for a little while. Her expressive head to the determined look of concentration that only came over her during her painting sessions. It was so alien and expressive to Sonata's useful personality that Sunset understood the level of devotion she felt. It did her doubt, gave her confidence that perhaps the whole thing might go well. The daylight faded quickly, and Sunset found herself yawning over her keyboard. She went to bed shortly after, wishing Sonata good night, but received no reply. She wasn't particularly surprised by this, as Sonata frequently became mysteriously deft while painting no mind. When she got up the next morning, however, she found Sonata still painting, and she was given a momentary pause. When did you get up? She asked, looking at the clock. Where's the clock? Almost the entire wall where the clock used to be was smothered by a layer of canvas squares. Did you stay up all night? She asked, aghast. Sonata didn't reply. Paintbrush raised, she held the usual splashes of smearing of paint in her face and the fringe of her hair. But she looked around and pale. Sonata? She said again, shaking her shoulder. Sonata looked around. Huh? She said, uncomprehendingly. Did you go to bed last night? Sonata frowned at her for a moment, then looked at the window. Beams of morning sunlight cut through the gaps of the curtains and cast odd shapes on the wall. Sonata seemed faintly surprised. I haven't been to bed yet, she said. Don't you have to go to work today? Sunset asked solicitously. I told my boss about Arya. He told me to take off what I needed until she's okay. She smiled at Sunset. It's not like my job is all that important to them after all. I have enough saved to pay my part of the rent, though. You have to get some sleep, Sunset said firmly, looking at the clouds and scowling. How do you expect to fold out your bed with all this stuff on it? See, Ma's going to move some of the canvas there. Sonata shouted an alarm. No! She cried, please don't move those things dry. Fine, Sunset sighed, pressing the braids of her nose. Go to sleep in my bed, then. Sonata protested that she didn't need sleep, but Sunset was having none of it. Sunset pulled Sonata's art shirt off, confirming her own mind that at least Sonata was too sleepy to resist much, pushed her grimly towards the bedroom. You're having a shower and going to bed. When you wake up, I'll make you some breakfast, or lunch by that point, I suspect. Sonata resisted to the last. Emerging from the shower, she tried to plead to go back to painting, but Sunset was firm. The bags under Sonata's eyes spoke louder to her than Sonata's words. And no amount of pleading or puppy dog eyes could budge her. She ordered the starving artist to bed and shut the door behind her with a snap. Returning to the wall of canvas squares, she tried to make out what they were supposed to be. Each square had a highly detailed something or other on it, but the detail was so good, so complex that Sunset couldn't, for the life of her, tell what they were supposed to be. Staring at one, she thought perhaps the sequence of what might be an eye, or maybe it was a complicated piece of sea landscape. She shrugged and went to make herself breakfast. The day passed slowly for Sunset Shimmer. The dulcet sounds of Sonata's sonorous snoring resounded from her bedroom. As a slow progress, persuading the Flipbot brothers to show some actual human sympathy was taxing. And the morning went by so utterly slowly that Sunset found herself daydreaming. Sometimes picking up Sonata's sketchpad, looking at the hidden pictures, wondering herself their meaning. And especially the ones drawn of her nude. One glimmer of satisfaction came from the city approving permit, and Sunset was able to go around her neighbors and ask for her permission to go ahead with her plan. Slightly to her surprise, almost everyone was quite enthusiastic about the idea. And only one or two seemed to have some initial misgivings, until Sunset explained why it was happening. When he heard that a girl's ability to walk, perhaps even to live on, was on the line, he raised no more objections, but happily gave their assent. And Sunset and Applejack had anticipated, however, the landlord proved to be the one main obstacle to the plan going forth. Sunset's email to Filthy Rich elicited a tartly worded phone call from him about forming plans without consulting him first. It was his property, after all. With the phone on speaker, Sunset argued for an hour and a half, which was unfortunately for Filthy Rich. Old Mr. Fairy next door happened to hear as he left to go get his weekly chess games. Within 30 minutes of Sunset slamming the phone down, she heard back from him with a more sober offer. Does he go ahead with her plan? It was only later that Sunset understood from something she overheard in the lobby downstairs that Filthy Rich received calls from almost every other tenant complaining about his refusal to allow the event to go ahead. About lunchtime, Sunset received a phone call from the city hospital informing her that Arya had arrived and was doing well. When the caller told Sunset that Arya had asked for her to come visit her, Sunset asked the woman to repeat herself. She asked for Sonata desk, the woman said, sounding like she was reading off something. Are you Sonata, miss? No, I'm her roommate. I'll tell her, though. Oh, her roommate, she assured the woman. Sunset's attempts to wake Sonata were unsuccessful. Not that she tried very hard. Standing beside the bed, gazing down at her, she had admitted she did feel terribly compelled to wake her from such a peaceful-looking slumber. True, Sonata had a tendency to display herself with arms and legs at odd angles. The covers singled in odd places, but her face was serene and peaceful, and that was enough to make Sunset very reluctant to wake her. She shook her shoulder a little, but Sonata only drooled on her pillow, mumbling incoherently. And so, Sunset determined that she should go to the hospital alone, and if Sonata wanted to go later, she would go. For now, Sunset felt that perhaps it would be best if she went alone to see Arya. The first meeting had not gone well, to say the least, and Sunset suspected that part of the reason might have been her own attitude. She had to admit to herself she couldn't think of Arya without some sort of resentment and loathing, considering what she had done to Sonata. But on the other hand, what they were doing now was trying to help her. It was important to Sonata that they do so. And so she supposed it would be the right thing to do to try and make amends. With this aim in mind, she set out to the hospital. The city hospital was not terribly different from the one in Baltimore, but it was taller and not so wide, surrounded by an urban zone as opposed to the tall, opposing walls of shops that Baltimore seemed to possess in abundance. Somewhat to her surprise, she didn't have to enter the hospital at all. The assigned entrance was next to a patch of grass, and ornamental trees was Arya seated in a wheelchair, an attendant standing nearby smoking a cigarette. At Sunset's approach, Arya looked up. She looked even worse than before, in Sunset's opinion. A pale complexion had waxed to a bloodless, grayish tinge to her skin, and black rings around her eyes looked deeper, more defined. Wasn't expecting you, she said weakly. Sonata had work, Sunset lied. Said she'd come by afterwards. Arya nodded. We're good out here, she said to the attendant. He looked questioningly at Sunset. I'll watch her, Sunset assured. The man nodded. Be back in 30 minutes, he said, walking towards the hospital entrance. Let's go over here, Arya said, rolling herself over to the side of the hospital. Let me do that, Sunset said, going to push the car on her shelf. I got it, Arya said sharply. Sunset paused, tightening her lips, but followed her over the side of the building. The wind was blocked by the building's immense height, and her voice was carried better in the stillness. Arya's voice was low and raspy, so she had a bad case of the flu. Before continuing, she took out a rather large pill and a bottle of water. She swallowed with difficulty. Had to take these, she explained. They force-feed them to me otherwise. She made a disgusting noise. Fastest. Sunset didn't inquire. Listen, Sorry about yesterday. I shouldn't have talked to you like you were sick. Arya snorted. Don't sell your sword there. You said what was your mind. I had no problem with that. After all, I'm kind of a bitch. You might be a loser and an idiot, but I think that trumps bitch. Sunset digested that. She suspected there might be a compliment there somewhere. Still, shouldn't let my feelings about Sonata influence how I treated you. Do me a favor, Arya said in a lower voice. Keep her away from me. What? You heard me. Arya went on. You keep her away from me. I called her over today to tell her to stay the hell away. Sunset stared at her. Arya lit up inside her. Anger lit up inside her, but she saw it down. I get you're scared about not being able to walk again, but listen. She explained about the concert Sonata had planned, and all the work that she and her friends had already done. To her bewilderment, the more she spoke, the angrier Arya seemed to become. A dull red flush suffused her face, and her brow darkened moment by moment. Please just stop. We're trying to help you. Sunset was taken completely aback. Well, stop it. I don't need your help, she grumbled, turning her chair around. Sunset was too shocked to speak for a moment or two, but as Arya began to wheel around, she grabbed the handle on her chair. I beg to differ, Sunset said with a bitter laugh. Adagio paid for you to come here. And without us, you might never walk again. What do you think you're going to do after this? What part of any of that makes you think you need help? Excuse me, Arya snapped coldly. I still said I don't want your help. Sunset's jaw tightened. What is your problem? Oh, she's coming down with Mike and character syndrome. You know, where even though help is being offered, you gotta be all prideful and assholeless and refuse it. And then later on, you gotta suffer some sort of horrible fate in order to teach Twilight a lesson. And you gotta refuse, even though it will actually help you. And what gets me? Some people actually agree with Mike on this. Those people are assholes. And those people are usually my riffers. See the man standing in front of her. Sonata's done nothing but be nice to you. Try to help you as much as she can. You have nothing to say to her that but leave me alone. Just what the hell is wrong in your head? Shut your mouth, Arya barked. Sonata's a useless, talentless waste of space. I hate her. I've always hated her. It would have been my choice to throw her out of the tallest building I could find and watch her hit the road below. You think you could come here and tell me how I should run my life? What help I should choose to receive? You go back to your little apartment and you tell that little bitch from me so you could go too. Sunset had heard enough. Rage seized her mind, blurring her sense of restraint. She pulled her back her hand and punched Arya in the mouth. Yes! That's what you should normally do to miking characters. What? Did Micah really think that just because you're a good person doesn't mean you're not going to get mad and punch somebody who deserves it in the mouth? No, this is what happens when you be an ass. You're going to get payback. As he raised her head again, she stopped, fist trembling. Arya hadn't cried out, nor did she look remotely surprised. She stared back at Sunset, her expression stolen as a trickle of blood seeped down her chin. In that moment, Sunset realized something. She lowered her fist, felt coldness leap through her system. What's the matter? Lost your nerve? You tried to kill yourself. You realized Stacey was so enormous that both of them were momentarily unable to speak. Arya's expression didn't change exactly, nor could she turn any paler than her already bloodless complexion would allow. But her eyes gave away her true feelings. Sunset, meanwhile, was stricken by the lingering scars of Sonata's own near-fatal mistake. Arya recovered first. What are you talking about? She said, trying to sound scathing, but no longer able to meet Sunset's eye. Your wounds, Sunset said in the same breathless, astonished tone. People who did it. You provoked them to do it. You wanted them to kill you. I didn't, Arya snapped. I didn't do that. I didn't want that. That didn't happen. She visited with a water ball. Sweat beating down her forehead. She muttered something Sunset couldn't hear, but Sunset had enough. She felt quite sick. Wait, where are you going? Arya looked up quickly, alarm on her face. Sunset didn't answer her. She just kept walking. Stop! Only sudden fear in Arya's voice stopped Sunset Simmer from walking away. She stood over her back at the girl in the wheelchair, inside tingling unpleasantly. She didn't say anything, but waited for Arya to go on. Yes, I did. I was alone. I was starving. I've been living on the streets for so long, I just couldn't do it anymore. I was going up to this place where I was told I could earn some money, but she swallowed. I knew if I went to a place like that, I'd probably never leave. These guys came out and it just came over me to end it. Sunset heard her repress a sob. Please don't tell Sonata. Is that the real reason you don't want her to come see you? Sunset asked quietly. Arya seemed to sense the anger in her voice. Yes, I just can't bear her to see me like this. You're right, Sunset whispered, voice trembling with rage. You're a bitch. A selfish, jealous, cowardly bitch. She turned around more soberly than she felt. She wasn't conscious of making a particular face. Her body felt oddly numb. The fleeting look of terror in Arya's face made Sunset suspect something in her face reflected her feelings. Sonata cried for you. She worked a sleepless night, traveled to an unfamiliar city, endured your childish attitude, witnessed her own sister coughing up blood, organized a massive effort to raise money for her operation. All she could help you. You want to drive her away just because you can't bear the shame of your own self-created misery? You were resent to the fact that she had friends, that she lived somewhere with someone. You were jealous of the fact that she made something of herself and you haven't. She glared at Arya, feeling as though she had an invisible fist erupting from her eyes. Arya stared back, stricken and unable to look away. You disgust me. Sunset breathed, turning away again. No, please, what am I supposed to do? Sunset stopped again, numbness had taken over her and absorbed her rage, coalesced everything into a single, tingling heat inside of her. It was an emotion of some sort, an unfamiliar one, something so intense and alien to her she could barely register it, let alone understand its nature. Whatever you want, Arya, Sunset said calmly. I'm going back to my sad little apartment. I'm going to help Sonata organize the concert and raise the money for your operation. After that, you can do whatever you want. Drown yourself in misery. Run away to whatever corner of the world you want to and escape your problems. Kill yourself for all I care. But don't worry, she said, turning her head to smile pleasantly at Arya. Don't worry. Sonata will never hear anything about it. I'll personally make sure that she never hears a single thing. Because I care too much about her to let her go through that sort of pain. Just for you. Without another word, she strode away. Nothing in her body and mind made everything faintly surreal. As she passed down the hospital entrance, she paused, feeling something drop onto her leg. Something wet. As he handed her face, he wiped away wetness from her cheeks. She regarded this wetness with vague but temporary interest. They kept walking. The way home was a blur to Sunset Simmer. She didn't go by bus, but walked the distance back, so that by the time she reached the apartment complex, the sunset was beginning to disappear over the horizon. She lured herself into her room with her key instead of her knocking, not saying anything to her neighbors, nor acknowledging their stares or questions. As she walked into her room, she became faintly aware of the oddity. Sonata hadn't said anything to her, despite her standing with an easel and paintbrush out, looking right at her. The canvas squares now covered the entire side of one wall, was encroaching into another, but Sunset noticed none of it. She sat down on the sofa, and after a few moments looked at Sonata. Are you alright? Sonata asked, sounding scared. Sunset didn't understand the look Sonata was giving her. A concerned look mixed with fright. The kind of look one might give a burn victim or a severely ill person. Why are you crying? Am I? Sunset asked, not much interested. I didn't notice. Sonata wiped her paint-smeared face with a wet cloth and took off her painting shirt. While Sunset was on her laptop, Sonata came and sat next to her, looking at her with the same look of deep concern. Slowly and deliberately, she reached out with both hands to Sunset's shoulders, pulled her over into a gentle embrace. One hand on her head, the other around her shoulders. Sunset's apathy was so complete she didn't try at least resist, but she was vaguely interested. What are you doing? She asked, her voice quiet and tremulous. You're sad about something, Sonata whispered.
You're sad and will tell me why. I don't want you to be sad. I'm gonna hold you to let it all out.
I'm not sad. She lay against Sonata's chest, feeling a warmth seep over her, hearing her steady heartbeat. To her horror, a ball of misery rose up her throat. Her eyes stung with fresh tears. He gave a small sniff.
That's alright. It's okay to cry if you need to.
I don't need to, Sunset sobbed. I'm not sad. I'm not sorry. I wasn't wrong. So maybe, why am I crying?
Maybe it's just time for it,
Sonata said quietly, stroking her hair and holding her closer. Sunset closed her eyes, letting the numbness ebb away into sorrow. As the sunlight favored the small apartment, color leaked away, and the sounds gathered about them.